Elizabeth Montgomery. The witch Samantha once captivated the world with her long blonde hair and angelic smile. However, few people know that behind that perfect appearance are years of pain and hurt that she had to endure in silence. Where dreams were torn apart by power, sex, and betrayal. Since she was only 19 years old, Elizabeth Montgomery became a victim of sexual relations in an industry full of traps. A cold father, turning her into a commodity on the chessboard of fame. A lover once sold her sexy and private image to a black film studio. Who was the traitor that almost made Elizabeth Montgomery give up her career? And who raped her behind the scenes, leaving a deep emotional wound? Elizabeth Montgomery, born April 15, 1933 in Los Angeles. She is not just an actress. She is an indelible icon of American television. With her long blonde hair, sharp but sad eyes, Montgomery captivated millions of viewers through her role as Samantha in the legendary series Bewitched, a role associated with the symbol of the magical nose wink, bringing miracles but hiding a hell behind the screen. However, her brilliant career is just a mask to hide a past full of darkness, blood, and tears. Elizabeth is the daughter of famous actor Robert Montgomery, a cold, authoritarian father who controlled her life as if directing a play with no way out. Since the age of 7, Elizabeth was forced to practice lines, learn how to please the camera, and crush her true feelings just to live up to the role arranged by her parents and Hollywood. Montgomery has been through 3 failed marriages, and in each of them she was a victim, not just of betrayal, but also of violence and manipulation. The men she loved turned out to be the masters of pain, both lovers and enemies. They made me love them, then trampled me like a prop. In Hollywood, love is a commodity, Elizabeth once confided in an interview. The sleepless nights of drug addiction, the desperate times with alcohol and sleeping pills, and the times she had to use her body to keep her role. No one could have guessed what lay behind Samantha's angelic face. And worse, at the height of her success, Montgomery was once silenced when she tried to speak out about an on-set rape. Who did it? It was none other than an Emmy-winning director who once called her the muse of American television. Hollywood was silent. The press was silent. Contracts were torn up. And Elizabeth Montgomery, that strong woman, chose to survive in silence for nearly 40 years. Until the age of 57, when she knew she didn't have much time left, Montgomery broke all barriers. In an interview, conducted in secret, later leaked and covered up by Hollywood in every way, she named the 5 men she hated the most. The men who had made her depressed, almost suicidal, and lost faith in the industry she had served all her life. The shocking thing is, one of those names was one of the greatest icons in Hollywood history. A man who was once called the gentleman of the silver screen. But to Elizabeth, he was a predator with a devil's smile. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because this story will make you shiver. Now, we will come to the first person she cursed, a cinema legend that everyone admired. First up, Gig Young, the domineering lover. He didn't love me. He loved the way I made him feel powerful, Elizabeth Montgomery said. In Hollywood in the 1950s and 1960s, the name Gig Young was synonymous with romanticism, charm, and elegance. An Oscar-winning actor and a symbol of the era's sex appeal. But few knew that behind that halo was an unstable, alcoholic, delusional, and egomaniacal man. And Elizabeth Montgomery herself, then only 20 years old, just starting out in the world of fame, immature, dreamy, and full of faith in love. Gig was 40, experienced, and dangerous. Their meeting on the set of Johnny Cool quickly turned into a storm with no way out. At first, there were candlelit dinners, sweet whispers. But then, step by step, he took away her freedom, strangling every relationship, every dream, every sigh. He didn't love me. He owned me, she said. Gig controlled every minute of Elizabeth's schedule. He once threatened to beat a co-star to death for smiling at her, once stormed onto the set in the middle of filming just to scream, "You belong to me. No one touches you." When he was no longer in front of the camera, Gig Young was a broken soul. He drank every day, lost himself in delusions, screamed in the night, and dragged Elizabeth into terrible trances. Every night was torture. Alcohol, screaming. Then he held her, shaking, whispering that if she left, he would kill himself. One night in 1964, after a big fight, Gig smashed the bathroom mirror and threatened to kill himself in front of Elizabeth. She ran away from the apartment and never returned. Years after breaking up with Elizabeth, Gig Young married a woman nearly 30 years younger than him. Just 3 weeks after the wedding, he shot his wife to death in their Manhattan apartment, then committed suicide, leaving a short note, "No one belongs to me." Elizabeth, upon hearing the news, remained silent for 6 months, not responding to any reporters. But in a rare letter to a close friend, she wrote, "I once loved a monster and almost died for him." Gig Young, the first name on the list of 5 men that Elizabeth Montgomery bore a grudge against for the rest of her life. To her, he was not a lover, not a life partner, but a knife piercing the heart of youth. A ghost that kept her awake for more than 10 years. And the next name, even more cruel, was the man Elizabeth married. The second man, William Asher. Yes, ex-husband, longtime collaborator, the man behind the brilliant success of Bewitched. But few people know that behind the camera lens, he is a nightmare in a suit, the one who stifled both Elizabeth's youth and artistic voice. "I used to believe that I was in love with a talented man, but it turns out I was just a living doll in his script," Elizabeth Montgomery once confided. When they fell in love, everything seemed like a fairy tale. She was his muse, and he held the fate of American television in his hands. But few people know that, behind the scenes of Bewitched, Elizabeth lived in suffocating loneliness, jealousy, betrayal, and calculating manipulation. William Asher is not only an ambitious director, he is also an emotional dictator. During their 10-year marriage, he controlled everything, from the script to the costumes to Elizabeth's every expression on set. Worse, he had many affairs with young actresses, even when Elizabeth was pregnant. It was rumored that Elizabeth once caught William having sex with a young production assistant in her private trailer on set, and that night, she almost committed suicide in the hotel bathroom with strong alcohol and sedatives. Until one day, she could not bear it anymore. The divorce in 1973 not only ended a broken marriage, but also buried Elizabeth's last faith in love. After that incident, she rushed into many other relationships, but no one could make her truly open up like before. And from that moment on, Elizabeth Montgomery vowed she would never forgive William Asher. In a private interview recorded when she was 57, Elizabeth said something that shocked Hollywood. "He is the first person I want to erase from my memory. If I had real magic, I would make him disappear forever." But that was just the beginning. Because behind the gorgeous appearance, there were 3 other names that haunted her for the rest of her life. Next up, the faceless powerhouse, the TV mogul. He wasn't a lover. He wasn't a husband. But he was the one who nearly cost Elizabeth Montgomery everything. In the 1970s, a mysterious figure behind ABC, known only as the Architect, secretly manipulated scripts, roles, and even the personal lives of major actresses. That was Fred Silverman, who was the programming director of ABC, then the head of CBS and NBC, the powerful mogul behind hundreds of decisions that affected the careers of female stars, including Elizabeth Montgomery. For Elizabeth Montgomery, Fred was a dark storm that came when she was at the height of her fame. It is said that at an internal party at ABC, Silverman once invited Elizabeth to a private room to discuss new scripts. A familiar phrase, but behind it was a system of power based on seduction and physical exchange. Elizabeth flatly refused. And that was when the nightmare began. A week later, a movie she had signed on for was abruptly canceled without explanation. 2 weeks later, a popular talk show she was preparing to air was cut at the last minute. A month later, Variety reported that she was suspected of mental disorder, erratic behavior. No one dared to say it out loud, but everyone understood. Fred was punishing. Fred did not shout. He did not threaten. He left no trace. He just gave orders in the dark, and the whole industry closed in on the victim. No need to touch. One phone call is enough to ruin a life. A former assistant of Fred's revealed with a shiver after leaving NBC. Elizabeth was not the only one, but she was the only one who dared to refuse and paid a heavy price. Fred Silverman, the man who broke Elizabeth Montgomery's wings without touching her. A type of power that sends shivers down your spine because it is invisible, but kills without a trace. The fourth, Aaron Spelling, the manipulator behind the curtain. He didn't kill me with a knife, but with silence, control, and contracts I never signed. Aaron Spelling, an absolute power in the American television industry throughout the 70s. He was the producer behind a series of blockbusters: Dynasty, Charlie's Angels, Beverly Hills 90210, and served as an undercover creative consultant for many seasons of Bewitched, the film that made Elizabeth Montgomery famous. At first, Elizabeth thought she had found an ally, a creative genius who would help her move beyond Samantha's shadow. But, in reality, Aaron Spelling didn't need an independent Elizabeth, but a puppet who could laugh at the right time. When Elizabeth suggested changing her role from the witch to try more thorny psychological roles, Spelling flatly rejected her, even trying to block all the film projects she wanted to participate in. One director once said, "Aaron has his own blacklist, and Elizabeth is at the top because she says no." Elizabeth was once nominated for a leading role in a film adaptation of a Joan Didion novel. But on the last day of negotiations, the investor got a call advising her not to cast her because of her temperament and lack of long-term commitment. The leak? A closed-door meeting with Aaron Spelling. Unlike Gig Young or Jim Morrison, Spelling doesn't need to make a fuss. He controls through contracts, through hidden connections, and by making people accidentally hate you. When Elizabeth asked to be a producer on a special episode of Bewitched, Spelling quietly lobbied to have her ex-husband, whom she had accused of mental abuse, cast as the director. That was the last straw. Elizabeth collapsed backstage with a panic attack and was out of the studio for a month because of acute anxiety. For Elizabeth Montgomery, Aaron Spelling was the man who kept her from flying. He didn't hit her, he didn't curse her, but he robbed her of a decade of creativity with one weapon: power. And it was the fourth man, the man who made Elizabeth realize, in Hollywood, the cruelest thing is not to be hated. It's to be controlled to the point where you lose sight of who you are. Are you ready for the last man? The man who held Elizabeth's hand at the Emmys, but who started the scandal that left her in the headlines for a year. The fifth, Henry Hurlbut, the traitor in the shadows. Names have been changed, for legal reasons, according to Elizabeth Montgomery's personal diary. It wasn't the paparazzi. It wasn't strangers. It was the people I once considered family, who made me a laughingstock in the press. Elizabeth Montgomery said, Henry Hurlbut, journalist, media manager, and image consultant, who worked closely with Elizabeth Montgomery during her golden age. It was he who turned the Bewitched image into a television phenomenon. They had dinner together every week, wrote speeches at the Emmys, and even shared many behind-the-scenes Hollywood secrets. Elizabeth once called him the only person who can keep the truth about me. But she trusted the wrong person. In 1977, just months after Elizabeth announced her first original television project, A Matter of Justice, an anonymous article appeared in a series of major entertainment magazines, accusing her of having a lesbian relationship with a young actress, complete with fake backstage photos. The media storm erupted. Contracts were canceled. Financiers backed out. Elizabeth nearly lost the entire project, and audiences turned away. After months of investigation, Elizabeth's personal lawyer discovered that the source of the leak came from within her own media team. And the name behind the subtle leak? Henry Hurlbut. Henry had secretly negotiated with a major studio to turn Elizabeth's idea into a separate project produced by someone else. But she refused to cooperate. His revenge was to destroy her reputation before she could stand on her own. Elizabeth was devastated. She locked herself in her house for nearly 2 months, refused to give interviews, and canceled all public appearances in 1978. I can forgive the man who left me, but I cannot forgive the man who turned my smile into a weapon to defeat me. Notes from a forgotten diary, published after her death. And those are the 5 enemies that haunted Elizabeth Montgomery throughout her life. Who do you think Elizabeth Montgomery hated the most? Leave a comment and let us know.